The cab smelled of diesel and cold metal, the kind that seeps into your skin after hours on the line. City lights blurred past like distant stars, the tracks humming steady under my hands. I chose this shift for the silence, after Lena left me raw and questioning everything. No crowds, no complications. Just me and the rhythm of the rails. But tonight, as the train slowed to a stop at the empty platform, the door to my cab slid open. There she stood, Elena Voss, the CEO whose face filled every company memo. Famous, untouchable. Why board my train? Why me, a shadow in the night? Her eyes met mine, steady in the fog. I gripped the controls tighter. This wasn't part of the route. I started each shift the same way. Keys in hand, I'd walk the length of the train under the station's sodium lights, their orange glow cutting through the damp city air. Pre-trip checks. Brakes firm, signals clear, wheels locked against the platform edge. The cars echoed empty, their seats like forgotten promises in the half-light. No passengers at this hour. Just freight cars loaded with the day's forgotten cargo. Crates of machine parts and bundled wire heading to warehouses on the outskirts. The grips were always cold. Frost from the rain slick on the metal rails. I'd test each door, the hinges creaking like old bones, rain pattering faint on the windows, streaked with city grime. It was a ritual, these checks, grounding me before the run. The engine thrummed to life then, a low growl that vibrated through my boots. I settled into the cab, adjusting the seat, worn smooth from years of drivers like me. Maps unrolled across the dash, routes etched in my mind, but I traced them anyway. Predictable lines, no detours. And yet, in those quiet moments before departure, the past would slip in. Lena's betrayal hit like a derailment, sudden and total. We'd built something in the city's underbelly. Late nights in her cramped apartment, hands tangled in sheets, whispers about leaving the grind behind. She worked dispatch, always chasing the next shift lead, the promotion that would fix us. But one morning, I found her notes, plans to transfer out, to a life without the weight of my steady plodding. She called it growth. I called it abandonment. The ache settled deep, a dull throb in my chest, pushing me to nights. Here, in the dark, no one could leave you. The train didn't promise forever. It just moved. I liked the control. Tracks laid straight, signals green or red, no gray areas, no human twists. The city sprawled beyond the windows, towers piercing the skyline. But from the cab, it was mine to command. No small talk with crew, no eyes judging the grease under my nails or the way I kept to myself. Just the pull of the throttle, the sway as we curved through tunnels where the lights died and the world narrowed to the beam ahead. Satisfaction came in the rhythm. Accelerate, coast, brake. Predictable. Clean. No one to complicate the path. Rain picked up as I guided us through the outer yards, wipers slapping steady. The windows fogged at the edges, my breath adding to the haze. I'd wipe them with a rag from my pocket, the cloth rough against glass. Hours passed like that. Stops at signal lights where the city hummed distant, horns, sirens, lives buzzing without me. It was enough. More than enough after Lena. End of shift brought the wind down. I'd ease into the depot, the train sighing as brakes engaged fully. Lights off, engine quieting to a tick. I'd lock the cab, chain through the handles, the click final in the emptying yard. Avoiding daylight crowds meant slipping out before dawn, hood up against the chill, bus waiting like a shadow. No goodbyes, no lingering. Just the walk home, through streets waking slow. Coffee from a machine that spat bitter and hot. But tonight, as I stepped onto the platform, keys jingling in my fist, a voice broke the silence. Low, clear, cutting through the rain's patter. Wait. I turned, heart thudding, sudden. There she was again. There she was again. Elena Voss, coat beaded with mist, standing too close under the awning. Her presence pulled the air tight, like a signal switching without warning. Why linger here? She stepped forward, the fog curling around her boots like it knew better than to touch her. Elena Voss. I'd seen her face in the company newsletters, sharp and composed, always alongside headlines about expansions or safety initiatives. The woman who ran Voss Rail like a vein through the city's pulse. Her coat was tailored wool, dark as the night tracks, droplets clinging without soaking in. Against the platform's haze, she looked solid, real, in a way the blurred lights weren't. "Miss Reyes," she said, her voice even, like she'd practiced it on bigger stages. No title, just my name from the roster, probably. I froze, keys biting into my palm. The depot's hum faded, the distant clank of switches, the rain's steady drum. Just us, under that dripping awning. "What do you need?" I asked, keeping my tone flat, eyes on the ground. Weariness hit hard. This was my exit, the quiet slip away before the day shift dragged in with their chatter and stares. High-status types didn't wander platforms at 4 a.m. They had drivers, schedules, worlds that didn't include grease-streaked uniforms like mine. "A word, if you have a moment." She didn't move closer, but her presence filled the space, eyes holding that quiet intensity, gray like storm clouds over the river. Not demanding, but steady, pulling at something I didn't want stirred. I shifted my weight, boots scraping wet concrete. Deflect. Keep it moving. "I'm off shift, headed home." Polite, but firm. The bus stop was 2 blocks over, rain waiting to soak me if I lingered. She nodded, like she'd expected the pushback, but didn't back off. Persistence in the set of her jaw, subtle, like a train building speed. "I won't keep you long. Just appreciation for your work. The night runs, they keep everything on track." Her words hung, simple but laced with something more. I glanced up, met those eyes again. They lingered, not prying but seeing. The air between us thickened, rain mixing with a faint cologne, crisp like cedar after a downpour. It cut through the diesel tang, unwelcome, stirring the quiet I'd built. Appreciation? From her? I almost laughed, but it caught dry in my throat. It's the job. We all do our part. Deflection again, but weaker. Her gaze didn't waver, and that pull tugged harder, subtle, like the first sway of the cab on a curve. Why me? The question burned, unspoken. She wasn't here for the crew. They buzzed around the yard like shadows, invisible to execs. She tilted her head, rain beating on her collar. "I know, but yours stands out. Reliable. In a city that never sleeps, that's rare." Compliment or probe? My skin prickled under the uniform, the weight of her attention too close to the ache Lena left. High-status intrusion, yeah, disrupting the low-key rhythm I'd carved. No room for this, for her world bleeding into mine. I shifted, keys rattling. "Thanks, but really, I need to go." The bus wouldn't wait, and neither would I. Not for curiosity from on high. One more beat, her eyes searching mine. That intensity softening just a fraction. Then, of course. "But the rain's picking up. Let me offer you a ride home. My car's just over there." She nodded toward the lot where a sleek black sedan idled, lights cutting the fog. No driver visible, but it screamed her status. Polished, waiting. A ride. From Elena Voss. The offer landed like a switch track, pulling me toward something unknown. My pulse thudded, wariness clashing with the chill seeping in. Why? The question echoed, but her gaze held steady, inviting. Against my better sense, I nodded. "All right, just this once." She smiled. Small. Real. We walked side by side, rain pattering our steps, her world easing in like fog through the cracks. We crossed the lot, puddles reflecting the sedan's headlights like shattered glass. The door opened with a soft click, and I slid into the passenger seat. Wait, no. She gestured to the back, but shook her head. "Up front with me. I drive sometimes. Clears my head." Her tone was casual, like this was normal. I hesitated, boots leaving wet prints on the pavement, but the rain urged me in. The door shut heavy, sealing out the depot's chill. Inside, the class chasm hit like a sudden break. Leather seats, soft and warm, cradled me without a creak. The dash gleamed, screens flickering faint with navigation, air clean and filtered. No diesel tang, no rain's bite. Elena settled behind the wheel, her coat shedding droplets onto the floor mat. She turned the key, engine purring low, a world away from the train's rumble. The skyline loomed through the windshield, towers stabbing the night. But from here they felt distant, like someone else's concern. Why this? The offer replayed in my head, simple words pulling at the edges of my routine. Safer than the late bus, she'd said back on the platform, her voice cutting through my deflection. The bus was my shield, crowded enough to vanish, rattling through streets I knew by heart. No conversations, no eyes lingering. But fatigue clawed at me now, shift's end weighing heavy in my limbs. Accepting meant stepping off the tracks, into her lane. Defenses up, I buckled in, arms crossed tight. Just a ride, nothing more. She eased us out, tires hissing on wet asphalt. The city receded slow, depot lights fading in the mirrors. Awkward silence settled, thick as fog. I watched the wipers arc steady, clearing rain in rhythmic sweeps. My hands fidgeted in my lap, nails bitten short from years gripping controls. Elena drove smooth, no jerks, her focus on the road but glances flicking my way. The interior light dimmed, leaving us in shadows, her profile sharp against passing street lamps. "You do this often?" she asked finally, voice low to match the engine's hum. Gentle, not prying hard. "The night runs. Must be solitary." I shrugged, eyes on the blurring sidewalks. "It's the job. Pace steady, lets me breathe." Truth slipped out, unbidden. Breathing came easier in the dark, away from the day's press, crowds shoving at rush hour, voices overlapping in the yards. Lena had hated it, called me a ghost, drifting through shifts while she chased daylight promotions. This car, this woman, it stirred that old friction, her world of boardrooms and spotlights, clashing with my quiet pull. She nodded, hands steady on the wheel. "I get that. My days are full of noise. Meetings that drag, decisions stacking like freight. Nights like this? Rare." A pause, her fingers tapping once, light. "What keeps you satisfied? The rhythm or something deeper?" Probes, soft but pointed. Curiosity laced her words, not the cold kind from execs barking orders. I shifted, leather creaking under me. Satisfaction? The tracks gave it, lines that didn't bend, signals that spoke clear, no betrayals waiting at the next stop. "The control," I admitted, voice rough. "You know where you're headed, no surprises." Except tonight. Her presence hummed beside me, cedar scent mixing with the new car polish, pulling at the silence I'd claimed. The skyline shrank further, neighborhoods turning residential. Brownstones huddled under sodium glow, streets narrowing. She asked about the routes, the worst weather runs, listening like my answers mattered. Not small talk, but real interest. Her questions peeling back layers I kept sealed. Fatigue won small battles. I answered in bursts, words tumbling reluctant. But defenses held, a wall against the ease creeping in. Why probe? Why care about a driver's quiet gripes? We turned onto my street, the sedan slowing past familiar stoops. My building loomed, brick faded and fire escapes tangled like veins. The contrast stung. Her sleek ride idling curbside, my world of cracked steps and buzzing doorbells. She parked smooth, engine cutting to silence. Rain tapped the roof, insistent. "Here we are," she said, turning slightly, eyes meeting mine in the dim. Gratitude flickered there, mixed with something warmer. But unease deepened, a knot in my gut. This ride home, it wasn't just transport. It pulled her closer, disrupting the dark I'd made my own. What now? The door handle cool under my palm. I paused, the night pressing in. I pushed the door open, the sedan's warmth clinging to my coat like a reluctant goodbye. Elena's taillights faded into the rain-slick street, red smears against the black. My building swallowed me whole, stairs creaking under boots still heavy with depot mud. No elevator, just the climb. 3 flights narrowing to my door. Key scraped the lock, and inside the sparse hit hard. A single room, walls thin as promises, bed unmade from yesterday's collapse. Kitchenette with its chipped sink, fridge humming faint against the night's quiet. Contrast slammed in. Her leather seats, that purring engine, against my sagging couch and the bulb swinging bare overhead. I shrugged off the coat, hung it on the hook by the door. Wet wool dripped slow onto the linoleum, pooling like doubt. The ride replayed, unbidden. Her hands on the wheel, steady, no flash. Questions she'd asked, gentle pulls at the edges of my days. Why care about a driver's roots, the feel of the throttle? Motives tangled in my head, sharp as switch points. Appreciation, she'd called it. But from the top, that word twisted. Was it pity for the night shift drudge? Or something sharper, a probe into the ranks? Elena Voss didn't wander platforms for small talk. Her world was glass offices, not fogged cabs. I paced the room, floorboards groaning soft, the city murmur filtering through the pane. Tires hishing distant, a siren wailing far off. Coffee brewed black, steam curling up from the mug. I sat at the table, scarred wood under elbows, replaying her voice. Low, even, cutting through the engine's hum. Not like Lena's, flashy, always laced with that edge, promises tossed like confetti. Lena's gestures burned bright. Dinners at corner bistros, her hand waving for the check like she owned the night. This is us now, she'd say, eyes sparkling under neon. But it was show, not substance. Care wrapped in spectacle, leaving me hollow when the lights dimmed. Elena's offer? Understated, rain-soaked, no fanfare. Just a ride, her gaze holding mine in the dashlight. It lingered, that care, quiet, pulling without demand. Triggered the ache, fresh again. Lena's abandonment, a scar itching under skin. Body tensed as I stripped for bed. Muscles knotted from the shift, but now from her proximity. The seat's warmth, her scent clinging faint, cedar sharp against my diesel. Unspoken pull thrummed low, a vibration I couldn't shake. Attraction? No, couldn't be. Her eyes in the fog, steady, seeing past the uniform. I slid under sheets worn thin, the mattress dipping familiar, but sleep dodged, room too still after the track's sway. Ceiling stared back, cracks mapping like roots gone wrong. Tension coiled in my gut, heat flushing despite the chill. Why her? Why now, when isolation fit like gloves? Proximity in that car, shoulders inches apart, her breath sinking with the wipers, stirred something buried. Desire, raw and unwelcome, body betraying the walls I'd built. I turned, pillow muffling the sigh, rain tapping insistent outside. Morning dragged in gray, light seeping through blinds bent crooked. Coffee again, bitter on tongue, resolve hardening with the dawn. Keep distance. Return to the routine. Checks, cab, dark. No rides, no probes. Elena Voss was tracks above, her world pulling too strong. Isolation wasn't cage. It was safe, predictable as signals. I'd nod if paths crossed, but no more. Slip back into shadows. Let the night swallow questions. Work waited, the depot's hum calling steady. But as I dressed, uniform rough against skin, my phone buzzed on the table. Company email, time-stamped early, from her office. Ms. Reyes, appreciating your dedication. A brief meeting? Regards, E. Voss. Interruption landed, pulling at the edges again. Heart thudded, resolve cracking faint. Why persist? The screen glowed, her words simple, but the pull undeniable. I set the phone down, breath steadying. Routine first. But the message lingered, like fog refusing to lift. I stared at the screen a moment longer, thumb hovering over reply. The words blurred under the kitchen light, her signature crisp at the bottom. Appreciation for dedicated staff. Polite, corporate, but it landed personal after last night. My fingers typed slow, deliberate. Understood. Available after shift. Send. The whoosh echoed in the quiet room, sealing something I couldn't name. I shoved the phone in my pocket, grabbed my keys. Routine pulled me out the door, streets slick underfoot, the city stirring with early horns and distant rumble. No time for second thoughts. The depot waited, tracks calling steady. Shift started in the gray dawn haze, yard lights buzzing faint as I walked the train. Brakes checked, signals green, the familiar weight settling my pulse. But the email lingered, a low hum under the engine's growl. I climbed into the cab, throttle easing us forward. City blocks sliding past in a blur of concrete and steam vents. Runs blurred together, tunnels swallowing light, platforms empty save for the occasional shadow. Solitude wrapped tight, just the track's vibration through the seat, diesel warming the air. It should have been enough, but her face flickered in, eyes steady in the fog, pulling at the edges. End of shift brought the depot again, brake sighing as we settled. I locked up, chain rattling cold, hood up against the chill. The platform stretched empty, rain from last night leaving puddles like mirrors. Footsteps approached, crisp, not the shuffle of crew. I turned, heart thudding sudden. Elena Voss, there in the half-light, coat open to a crisp shirt, hair tied back loose. No entourage, just her, hands in pockets, breath clouding faint. Miss Reyes. Her voice cut the quiet, low and even. Eyes met mine, that storm gray holding without pressure. I saw your reply, thought I'd catch you here. Wariness spiked, but I nodded, wiping hands on my pants. Shift's done, you don't need to... Coffee. She held out a cup, steam rising from the lid, the scent rich and dark cutting the yard's oil tang. Black, no sugar. Figured it fit. Simple gesture, but it landed heavy, her knowing without asking. I took it, fingers brushing hers. Warm, brief, sending a jolt up my arm. The contact lingered, skin tingling as I pulled back. Thanks. The word came rough, cup warm in my grip. We stood there, platform edge dropping to the tracks below, city waking beyond the fence. Her presence intruded soft, not the sharp kind from boardroom tales, but steady, like a signal light glowing unexpected. She sipped her own, gaze on the horizon where towers pierced the smog. Long night? Casual, but her shoulders sagged faint, lines etching deeper around her eyes. Same as always. I leaned against a post, metal cold through my coat. The coffee burned good, grounding. But talk shifted, her words pulling personal. Board meetings dragged today, decisions piling like derailed cars. Fatigue hits harder than I'd admit, honest, raw in the depot's hum. I glanced over, saw the weight in her stance, hands clutching the cup tighter, jaw set against it. Not the invincible CEO from memos, but human, frayed at the edges. Sounds heavy, I said, voice softening despite myself. Tracks give me space from that. Night solitude, it's mine. No noise, just the pull forward. Keeps the world at bay. Vulnerability slipped out, the admission hanging between us. Why share? But her nod came slow, understanding flickering. I envy that. My quiet's stolen, boardroom echoes chasing me home. Solitude sounds like mercy. The air thickened, rain scent mixing with coffee steam. A train horn blared distant, breaking the beat. She smiled then, small and wry. Though I bet your nights have stories. Derailments? Ghosts in the cars? I huffed, almost a laugh. Ghosts, maybe. Last week a crate shifted. Rattled like something alive. Thought the train was haunted. The words tumbled light, tension cracking. She chuckled, low and real, the sound warming the chill. Haunted freight. Better than my ghosts. Endless spreadsheets. Laughter built, mine joining hesitant, the shift subtle, but there. Hands moved with it, mine gesturing the crate's rattle, hers mimicking a spreadsheet flip. Palms brushed accidental, her skin soft against my calluses, spark jumping quick. I froze, pull humming low, but she didn't pull away fast. Eyes met, holding the moment. Cedar scent faint under the coffee. We stepped back, cups empty now. About that meeting, she said, voice steadying. Company matters. After hours, if you're free. Somewhere quiet. Invitation landed, pulling deeper. I nodded, the intrusion growing, but not unwelcome. Yeah, let's talk. The diner sat tucked off the tracks, neon sign flickering faint against the warehouse brick. We slipped in after my shift, the bell jingling soft over the counter's hum. Booths lined the walls, vinyl cracked but warm under fluorescent glow. No corporate shine here, just grease scent and coffee brewing endless, plates clattering from the kitchen. Elena chose the back corner, away from the lone trucker nursing eggs, his eyes on the window where trains rumbled distant. We slid in opposite, menus sticky under fingers, her coat draped over the seat like shed armor. She ordered black coffee, same as me, her voice low to match the diner's quiet pulse. No rush in her movements, just a nod to the waitress who poured without questions. The steam rose between us, cups cradled close. Thanks for coming, she said, eyes meeting mine across the scarred formica. Gray like the river at dusk, holding without demand. The air felt thicker here, away from depot fog, her presence pulling steady. I stirred sugar in, watching granules sink. Company matters? The words came cautious, probing the invitation's edge. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, lines etching deeper around her mouth. Partly, but mostly, this. A pause, her fingers tracing the cup's rim. The pressure. It builds like freight stacking too high. Board pushes expansions, roots cutting through neighborhoods people fight. Mother's loss hit last year, lung cancer, quick and quiet. She handled the old lines, knew every switch by heart. Without her, it's all weight on me. Decisions that derail lives if wrong. Her voice cracked faint, raw under the even tone. Stories poured then, not polished memos, but real. Nights staring at ledgers, grief twisting like a jammed brake. Mother's photo in her wallet, faded from years in her pocket. The mirror hit hard. Lena's abandonment echoed that loss, sudden, leaving tracks empty. I gripped the mug tighter, heat seeping through ceramic. My turn, I said, the words heavy on my tongue. Reciprocal, her gaze pulling it out. X left me hollow. Lena, dispatch girl with big dreams. We shared shifts, built something in the city's grind, nights tangled, plans whispered over lukewarm coffee. But she chased promotions, saw me as dead weight. Found her notes one dawn. Transfer papers, life without my steady pull. Called it growth. Left me fearing imbalance. Always the one holding, never equal. The confession hung, diner noise fading to a hum. Elena's eyes softened. No pity, just recognition. Hidden lives, she murmured. City swallows us whole. I steer from glass towers, you from the cab, both dodging the bustle, keeping pieces locked away. Mother's gone taught me that. Solitude's a shield, but it isolates. Emotional bridge built slow. Words weaving our pains. Mutual understanding settled, like tracks aligning after a storm. The trucker left, bell jingling, leaving us in the booth's hush. Her knee brushed mine under the table. Accidental at first, then lingering. Fabric warm through denim. Unspoken electricity sparked. Low thrum in my veins. Her gaze holding the contact. Cedar faint under the grease, pulling closer. I didn't shift away. The touch grounded, real amid the sharing. It's scary, I admitted, voice dropping. Opening up, fearing you'll pull away like she did. She nodded, knee pressing firmer, intent clear. I won't. This, us, it's not imbalance. It's tracks meeting. Vulnerability confessed then, her hand sliding across the table, fingers lacing mine brief. The diner's glow caught her eyes, storm clearing to something warmer. Hearts thudded sink, the night deepening outside, rain starting again on the window. Escalation hummed, confession pulling us toward uncharted rails. The diner's neon buzzed outside as we stepped into the rain, her knees' warmth still echoing on my skin. I walked her to the sedan, puddles splashing under our steps, the city's distant rumble matching the thud in my chest. Power dynamics loomed then, sharp as a signal flare. Elena Voss, her name carried weight. Decisions that rerouted lives, layoffs whispered in the yards like ghosts. What was I? A driver, invisible until a wheel jammed. Whispers would spread if this leaked, the CEO cozying up to night shift, eyes narrowing in the break room, judgment stacking like freight. Slumming it, they'd mutter, or worse, she's using you for leverage. Doubt coiled tight, Lena's shadow twisting it deeper. Ambition always won, leaving the steady one cracked. I nodded goodbye, her taillights cutting the wet dark. But the pull lingered, fraying my resolve. Home waited, stairs creaking under my weight, the door locking with a final click. Sleep came fitful, rain drumming the pain like insistent questions. Why pursue? Her world pulled too strong, boardrooms echoing with deals that crushed the small. I tossed, sheets tangling, the fear rooting deep. This connection, fragile as fog, could derail everything. Morning brought the depot's grind, but her email hit mid-shift, a ping in the cab's quiet. Thinking of our talk. Dinner soon? Simple words, but they stirred the storm. I typed back hesitant, deleting twice before sending agreement. Intrusion growing, but the pull won. Days blurred into runs, tracks humming steady, but doubt shadowed every curve. Crew glances sharpened. Had someone seen us at the diner? Whispers in the yard. Voss been around more. Spot checks? My stomach nodded, powers imbalance pressing like a jammed throttle. She was the line, I the rail. Cross it, and sparks flew. Lena's betrayal echoed, flashy pursuits ending in abandonment, me left holding the pieces. Alina's persistence felt different, quieter, but trust frayed slow. Then, 2 nights later, rain hammered the windows as I collapsed into the chair, uniform shed in a heap. The buzzer rasped, sharp through the downpour. I wiped steam from the intercom glass, peering down. There. Elena. Coat soaked, hair plastered dark against her neck, standing under the stoop's weak light. No car idling, just her, puddles pooling at her feet. Heart slammed, I buzzed her up, door swinging open before doubt could lock it. She stepped in dripping, breath clouding the dim hall light. Sorry for the drop-in, rain caught me, her voice low, edged with chill, but eyes held that steady gray, pulling me close. I grabbed a towel from the bathroom, handed it over, watching water trace her collarbone. The apartment shrank around her, sparse shelves, the single lamp casting long shadows, contrast stark to her poised frame. Sit, I said, gesturing the couch, kettle whistling faint in the kitchenette. She peeled off the coat, hanging it dripping, shirt clinging translucent. We settled opposite, steam from mugs rising between us, rain lashing the pane like accusations. Intimate talk unfolded then, her words peeling back layers. Isolation at the top, she admitted, fingers tight on the mug. Glass walls, but no one sees through. Decisions isolate. Cut routes, lives shift, but mine stays locked. Seeking real connection, not memos or handshakes. You see the rails, not the shine. Her gaze dropped, vulnerability cracking the CEO shell. Isolation mirrored mine, the cab's solitude, now shared ache. But past shadows surged. And if I'm just a diversion, I voiced it raw, voice cracking. Night shift curiosity, something to break the boardroom grind. Lena chased status, left me as the drag. Power tips the scale. You'll move on, I'll be the story, whispered in the yards. Words hung heavy, fear bared in the room's hush. She set the mug down, leaned forward, hand reaching slow. No diversion, she said, voice fierce, but gentle. This is real. Your steadiness grounds me, not some whim. Her palm settled on my arm, warm through the thin shirt, thumb tracing a slow circle. First real touch, electric, steadying the storm. Doubt eased fraction, her reassurance sinking deep, pull undeniable. Night deepened outside, rain softening to a patter, her hand lingering as talk turned quieter, the connection weaving tighter. Her touch lingered on my arm, thumb circling slow, rain pattering softer now against the window like a held breath. The room felt smaller, heat building from her palm, spreading up my shoulder. I didn't pull away. Couldn't. But the words rose anyway, sharp as a stalled wheel. "This risks everything," I said, voice low, edged with the fear I'd buried. "Your world, decisions that shift routes, cut jobs. One whisper in the yards and I'm the fool chasing the boss. Power tips it all. What if this is just a break from your isolation? A story to tell over drinks up high?" Elena withdrew her hand, slow, eyes narrowing in the lamp's glow, gray storming deeper. She leaned back on the couch, arms crossing tight over her chest, shirt still damp against her skin. The air thickened, tension coiling like a jammed coupling. "You think that's it? Some diversion to fill the quiet?" Her tone sharpened, not angry but raw, frustration bleeding through. "I've built walls too, Reyes. Glass ones that trap me. But this, pushing you away before we start, that's the real risk. Hiding behind what-ifs, letting fear derail us both." The argument heated then, words tumbling faster, rain picking up outside to match the thud in my chest. I stood, pacing the narrow floor, boots scuffing the rug. "Easy for you to say. You're the line, I the rail. One pull and I'm off track. Lena promised equal, then chased her climb, left me splintered. Your caution in that world, out but measured, principled but guarded, it screams the same. Professional fallout could crush me, not you." She rose too, closing the gap, her breath warm in the charged space. "Out, yes. Principled, always. But cautious, because the world's not kind to women like us building empires. Bored eyes, investors probing. One slip and it's scandal, not strength. I'm not her, Reyes, not chasing status over you." Her voice cracked, honest now, desires stripping bare. "I want this. You. The steadiness in your grip, the way you see the tracks clear when my world's blurred. Desire hits hard, your scent under the diesel, the quiet pull in your eyes. Raw, real, not a whim." The fight broke there, raw honesty flooding the room. I stopped pacing, faced her close, heart's thudding sink against the rain's drum. Her confession hung, pulling me under, desire mirroring mine, unspoken heat flushing my skin. Surrender came sudden, walls cracking like frost under sun. "It's there," I admitted, voice rough, leaning in. "Attraction. Your gaze in the fog, that touch, it undoes me. Body wants, despite the fear." Our lips met then, hesitant at first, her mouth soft against mine, tasting of rain and coffee faint. I leaned deeper, hands finding her waist, fabric cool under fingers. Sensory rush hit, rain lashing the pain, warmth blooming inside, her body pressing close, curves yielding. Hearts pounded loud, thudding against ribs like engines straining. Her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling gentle, kiss deepening, tongues brushing tentative, then sure. Heat built low, breath mingling hot, the room spinning slow around us. Cedar mixed with my soap, skin heating where shirts tugged loose. We broke apart, gasping, foreheads touching. Rain easing to a drip outside. Clarity settled after, her eyes searching mine, soft now. "We'll navigate slow," she murmured, hand cupping my cheek, thumb tracing my jaw. "Together. No rushing tracks. Boundaries tested, but us first." I nodded, breath steadying, the agreement sealing warm. New rhythm stirred, pulled toward her world, but ours now. Testing what came next, hands still linked as night quieted. Her words settled like brakes engaging smooth, the rain's patter fading to a distant hum outside my window. We didn't rush from there. Nights unfolded slow, blending our rhythms without forcing tracks. She'd wait at shift's end sometimes, sedan idling quiet in the lot, headlights cutting fog like a signal light. I'd slide in, boots still carrying the cab's chill, and we'd drive through the city's veins. Towers looming, streets slick under tires. No grand gestures, just her hand resting light on the gear shift, fingers brushing mine when lights turned red. Quiet evenings followed, alternating worlds. My sparse apartment one week, her sleek loft the next, overlooking the river's dark twist. We'd cook simple, pasta boiling on my hot plate, or takeout spread on her coffee table, steam rising as talk wove easy. Her cedar scent mixed with my diesel, the air thickening warm, bodies drawing closer on the couch, kisses building deliberate, hands exploring scars and curves without haste. Challenges crept in, subtle as a warning whistle. Company eyes sharpened, whispers in the yards about Voss's spot checks, crew glances lingering when she nodded my way during inspections. We navigated careful, no touches in view, emails coded neutral. Route review, meaning dinner after. Internal insecurities nod, mine first, fear of the chasm widening, her world pulling her back to boardrooms while I gripped the throttle alone. Nights I'd wake tense, her arm draped heavy across me, wondering if this equilibrium tipped easy. What if the board calls you away? I'd murmur into her shoulder, voice rough in the dark. She'd turn, eyes steady in the low light, palm pressing my back. Then we reroute. Together. Her own doubts surfaced too. Vulnerability cracking her shell. Admissions of isolation's weight. How my steadiness anchored her against the corporate grind. You ground me, she'd say, fingers tracing my knuckles, when decisions stack like derailed cars. Growth came in quiet beats. Confidence blooming slow. At work, I spoke up more, suggesting tweaks to night routes in meetings. Voice steady under crew stares, her subtle nod from the head table fueling it. No longer shadow, I claimed space, the cab feeling less like cage, more command. Elena found grounding in our nights, her posture easing, laughter freer over shared mugs. She'd linger in my apartment longer, bare feet on the rug, helping with checks on my gear. Hands steady as she oiled a hinge, mirroring my rituals. This pulls me back, she'd say, wiping grease from her fingers, to what's real. Mutual healing sank deep, realization hitting one dawn as sunlight slanted through blinds. She healed my solitude, pulling me from the dark without smothering. I mended her fractures, offering rhythm amid chaos. Future hints whispered, talk of joint weekends, her hand in mine on a platform, city sprawling below. No promises etched in steel, but commitment solidified, her lips brushing my temple. We're building this, she'd affirm, voice low against the morning hum. Amid the noise, the city chaos pressed, horns blaring distant, but our equilibrium held. Tracks merging, worlds balancing in the pull between us. Hands intertwined on the train platform at dawn, fingers laced tight against the rising light, her warmth chasing my night's chill. Choosing connection over solitude felt like the throttle easing forward, steady, inevitable. If unexpected love has pulled you from the dark, share your story below. Subscribe for more tales of finding home in the chaos.